everyone. Welcome to the Femme Tell All podcast. My name is Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux.
And we're so happy you're here.
We're so happy you're here.
We missed you guys.
Yay! I know, we missed a couple of, a week, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks, actually.
2 weeks. Oh,
so
my goodness.
thank
Way
you.
too long. Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Thanks for the patience as we navigate this new chapter of Femme Tell All.
And
You
please
won't
feel
see
free
us
to
today.
tell us how much you miss us.
Yeah, please. We love little sweet love notes.
We do.
And today's is going to be an audio only. So obviously, if you're listening to this,
Welcome.
you know.
Yeah.
But this one is going to be audio only.
And trust us, you don't want to see us right now, but it's very great for us. We're very comfortable, no makeup,
We're
relaxed.
chilling. Both of us may or may not be unshowered.
Yes. And the answer is not.
Not showered. So yeah, post gym, post work,
Yeah.
we're doing it. But we're so excited to get back with you guys. We've missed you so much, and today is actually a really close subject to our heart. As of recently, we're talking about cutting family ties.
Yeah, absolutely. So this came up because I recently had a non-interaction, actually, with one of my family members that was extremely hurtful. I had traveled somewhere to be with family, and this person did not acknowledge me, did not speak to me, didn't even reach out to me, even though I had reached out to them a couple of times, letting them know I was coming. And it was just painful, to say the least. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. And I started questioning if I wanted this person in my life anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because it's not somebody that would be so easy to not care about not being present. But I'm at a certain point where what are they bringing into my life that is positive? And is it worth it anymore to keep fighting for something, or to keep even taking, quote unquote, I would say, abuse at certain points if they're in a bad mood, or they're feeling something, or they're reacting to something. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Kind of going through what that looks like for different relationships, and so many times we're like, oh, that's family, that's family, that's family.
Yeah.
At what point is it crossing the barrier? I don't care what title you hold in my life. You
It's
can't
not
do
healthy.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel abused. I feel
Yeah.
misused. I
Yeah.
feel disrespected. I think all of that is so valid and fair.
Yeah.
And getting to a point where that's being tested, whether it's every time you're seeing them, or even if it's every other time or every couple of times,
Yeah.
I think it's so fair to take a step back and look at how appropriate and how needed that relationship is.
Yeah,
even if
absolutely.
it was blood. I think a lot of the time, you're right. We get into this headspace of well, it's my mom, I have
Yeah.
to, or it's
Yeah.
it's my family, I can't leave them behind, and it's not worth it always. It's not worth the price of admission.
Exactly. And I had in previous times, and it's this episode's going to sound like, God, she cuts out everybody, but I don't, I promise.
Yeah.
But I have cut out my dad from my life because that to me was such a toxic relationship. And that to me was a clear line of this is done. You bring nothing to my life except pain, agony, problems. I don't want you in my life. So that I don't care how the future looks without him in my life, because I know my life without him is better. And then there's the more muddied water of, okay, there's been bad moments with this person, but I love them, but we consistently keep getting to this point, and I hate the idea of being 80 years old and not knowing what's going on with them, or not knowing where they are in life or how they're doing. So where is the line? Where do you say this is enough, or maybe I keep going, but then but what is that? What does that look like?
I mean, I think it's just to start off, I don't think it would be a preferred decision for anyone, right?
Yeah.
I don't think most people going into these kinds of dynamics with their family members want to cut it off, right? I don't think that's the preferred method even slightly. But like you said, when push comes to shove, there's a point where it's if this is completely upsetting my health and my well-being, I'm forced to do it, for my own self-preservation.
Well, and even with this particular event, I kept it together the entire time until I got back home with Neil, and then I had my breakdown. And for me, it was also, I was so hurt by it, and this person doesn't know how to apologize. I know I'll never get an apology. So where's the comeback from that? And so I think that's another clear distinction too, because like like if it was a friend, and a friend treated you like that, that's a clear distinction of everybody's going to be like, that's not your friend. That's not somebody you should be around. But then when somebody has the title of family, all of a sudden the rules are supposed to change, but I don't know if it necessarily does.
I don't think it does. And maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but and obviously I'm speaking from a huge place of privilege of where I feel like the majority of my familial relationships are so solid.
Absolutely.
But there's been times where there's friction and things like that, and it's not a warm hug. And there's parts where you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill them. Like, not kill them, obviously. FBI that's listening. This is not a real thing.
Empty threats.
But like, you get to the point where you're like, no one should treat me like that, or no one should talk to me like that. Like, I won't stand for that. And you wouldn't stand for that in other relationships, just like you said. So why is there a double standard here just because you guys are related?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think as much as some people might take the side of like, no, there's no way that I would ever cut ties with family. We are family at the end of the day. I don't know if that's always the healthier option. I mean, what would you say?
I definitely don't. Like I said with my dad, that I think that was one of the best decisions. Every time I was around him, I was hurting. Every time I was around him, I was disappointed. That now taking that distinction, and even with my dad, what I said is, we often give people titles and we expect them to perform under these guise of like, oh, like a dad's supposed to be this way. He's supposed to show up this way. And like, that's what makes those actions hurt more. But if you take that title away from them and you go, this is a person with their own background and their own trauma and their own whatever. And I can't expect him to perform any other differently than he's going to. I can only choose if I want that action around me or that energy around me.
Yeah. That's so valid. That's so fair. And I'm glad that that was one of your not tests for him, but like markers for you of, is it worth it to continue with this relationship? And a lot of, like, for me, anytime I have any friction in my friendships, my relationships, my familial relationships, I think I go back to it at the end of the day of where, there is a healthy dose of, these are the people that know me the best. I'm probably going to be the ugliest with them, right? Like there is some kind of like, I'm not always going to be the most poised, perfect, polished version of myself in front of them, because there's the luxury of the comfort that you've built with them, whether that was like you were born into it or you've developed it.
Yeah.
But also at the end of the day, I go like, I'm having a bad day. I'm having shit happen at work, or I'm stressed or whatever. And yet I'm not using them as like a human punching bag. I'm not blaming everything on them. I'm not so mercurial with my emotions that like people don't want to be around me. It's like those kinds of things that when I witness that with other people, it's hard for me to relate or even rationalize it or validate it, because I'm like, I understand you're going through a tough time. I understand you might be taking this out on me because I'm someone so close to you, and you don't even know that you're maybe being
the way you're being
insufferable. But at the same time, I'm like, if I can regulate my emotions to a certain degree, I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but if I can, at the end of the day, like, if I blow up at my mom or something like that because I'm a little annoyed and she's asking a lot of questions and I'm like, Mom, I can't explain this to you.
And that is literally actually Madison's quote unquote blow up.
My mom.
Nobody would take that as a bad thing.
I know, but like that, and I can't sleep at night after knowing that I talk to my mom like that. So, those kinds of things are hard. So that's where it's when you're on the receiving end or you see someone else on the receiving end of just like, it's someone else's shit, so to speak, that they have to work through, and they're not working through it, and because of that, they're taking it out on their family members and the people closest to them. It gets a point where you want to help them. You want to be like, listen, I know you're unhappy, or I know you're insecure, or I know you're angry. Like, insert here the emotions and sensations you're feeling. And you want to help lead them or guide them or even just support them through those tough times in their life. But also, like, again, that self-preservation where it's like, I'm not going to be your human punching bag.
No.
And, like, in this case, specifically for you, you know, you and I have had this conversation many times where I'm like, what was it? Like, what was even the catalyst of what's going on right now? And we can't even
understand it. Yeah.
And again.
And that's the most frustrating situations. It's like you said, like when somebody's reaction doesn't make sense or somebody's actions don't make sense. And you're like, I can't understand where you're coming from or why you're doing this. And you're not telling me. You're not having that conversation with me. Yeah. And so how can I?
I'm so glad you said that, because that is where it really gets inappropriate, in my opinion, of like, if someone isn't communicating to you their frustration with you or things like that, you're none the wiser. Like, you know, like you might be giving them a cold shoulder, you might, whatever. And they might think like, oh, wow, Ruth is acting weird, or, you know, and as much as humans, we don't like confrontation. So a lot of time we're like, oh, I just wish they knew that I was upset with them. I think this is one of those times where going to an event, a celebratory event, which you did, and you're expecting to say hi and welcome and everything, love on your family members, and one up and decides to ignore you, that is wild.
It's crazy.
And it goes like, why would you? And like the fact that they didn't also communicate that to you, because it'd be one thing if they communicated to you before you went to this event and they were like, hey, I'm really upset with you. Even if they said, I can't get into it right now because I'm really upset, it's still not the best case scenario, but I'm like, that would at least have given you some kind of platform of like, oh, they're not going to be talking to me. Right. There's some tension here. We're going to figure it out. Yeah. But you got no communication. None. You got a cold shoulder and ignored. Yeah. Like utterly ignored.
Utterly.
And then no follow-up, no
apology, no like, hey, like I know I acted this way, but we should probably talk. Like nothing. Yeah. And like, again, from somebody like me, and I know you'd be like this too, like I wrestle with it, like, should I be reaching out and being like, what the heck? But then again, then I'm put back into a position where I'm almost coddling this behavior.
Yeah, you are.
And so I don't know. Maybe that is the right thing to do, and maybe I'll get to that point. But right now I'm just like distance. Like I don't have anything to say to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, like sometimes I've gotten confrontational on the opposite side of like, if I know I'm being ignored or something like that, I'll reach out to someone and be like, the fuck? Like, what are we doing here? You know? I don't always recommend that because that's not always the best. I'm just a little more intense sometimes. But I would say, like, I know I've talked to my therapist about this because, like, as a chronic, like, people pleaser at times, and I know that you've wrestled with that as well. You know, a lot of the time you're like, are they mad at me? You know, like, should I be like worried? Are they mad at me? And at least my therapist has been like, you can't carry that like weight of someone being upset with you if they haven't expressed that to you. And she's like, even when they have expressed it to you, like, it's not always your burden to carry. Like, it's, you know, it's something for you to work through and hopefully come to a consensus with them. But at this point, they haven't said anything to you. You're obviously, they are upset in some way, but they haven't communicated it. Yeah. And like, it's kind of none of your business, right? As far as,
and I just feel like people like that always just assume that they're right, and they'll live in that righteousness and like carry their anger with them, which is their burden to carry, I guess. I was watching, and it's so timely with all of this too. I was watching this documentary on docuseries on Netflix called I Am a Killer.
Okay.
And there was one episode where this guy was obviously mentally ill and schizophrenic and had a manic episode where he killed his grandma and then had the plans to like go and kill his entire family, but then wasn't able to do it. And his like last line in the interview was like, I just don't understand why they're not talking to me. Like, I'm still family. Like he like To me, that is the quintessential. I mean, that's the extremity, but there are family members that are like that. Like, I
Yeah.
can do whatever I want to you, but we're family. You should still be talking to me.
Yeah.
Like, no.
And I agree with you. Wow. First of all, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's the like, oh God. Yeah, I just killed grandma.
Yeah.
What do you want
Why
from
are
me?
you angry?
You guys are being
Fine.
so sensitive.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of people, and some people, listening to this episode could even be like, ooh, Ruth, like, you cut out your dad. Like, I'm not saying they should be,
No.
but I'm saying there might be some audience members that feel that way. Or hopefully, like, it's more the latter, or like the
Well, I can
other side.
understand, honestly, though. Like, if somebody has a super solid family and they have parents and family members and extended family members that they just have a tight knit, I can understand the definition in their head fits what society would say is the role that those people are supposed to play in your life. So I understand you being like, or whoever would feel like that sensitivity to that. But there's the other side of that where so many people have so many different types of relationships that aren't healthy, that people fall under these titles or roles.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're like beholden to be in their lives.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yes, I agree with you entirely. And as someone that I would say falls more into the category of having pretty healthy relationship dynamics, like, not once have any conversations of me and you talking about your dad, or even this family member where you've had a very touch and go relationship with them.
Yeah.
Where there have been good times.
Yeah.
And then there's been times where it's like, oh, you know.
Yeah. And
I'm like,
finish it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
And not once has it ever even come into question for me.
Thank you.
It really hasn't.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. I'm like, you don't deserve to be treated like that. And you shouldn't be. And you shouldn't have to put up with that. And so as much as I would like it to be a wonderfully smoothed out relationship for you, because you deserve that, at the end of the day, if it's not, like you said, if it's bringing you pain, if it's bringing you anguish, it's causing doubt for you, it's making you unsettled, like, you have every right to step away.
Well, and then the thing is, too, this specific family member, I've also spoken to other family members that they've made them feel the same way, and they've all, like, in their private time cried because of this. And so, again, when somebody keeps doing certain actions that are affecting people that you love, and including yourself, there is a line being drawn in the sand of, like, I won't stand by these actions. I won't be another person that allows you to continually being the type of person that I don't co-sign.
Yeah. Would you say it's even easier? I mean, you've witnessed, like you said, other family members having adverse effects from this person's relationship.
Yeah.
Is it easier when you see those things to be more upset, do you think?
It's funny. So when it happens to me, I'm like hurt, but when it happens to somebody else, I'm angry.
Yeah.
And so I'm experiencing different emotions. But I still will question my own reactions, and because of the place this person holds in my life, that it's hard. I'll still question, like, oh, should I do this? Should I, like, do I need to be the bigger person? How many times do I have to be the big? Yeah. And it's still that struggle, and I think this is the gray area. Like, again, like, there are the clear cut, like my dad, like, you're done. And then there's the family members that, of course, like, I'm always, like, we're always good. We might have, like, some misunderstandings, but we're family. And then there's this middle ground of, like, it's not so clean and clear on how to proceed.
Mm-hmm. And right now, coming off such a fresh altercation, or lack thereof, I should say, but something that deeply hurt you, like you said, you in your I think your words was that you had not a meltdown, but you said I had a breakdown.
I did.
That's fair. And coming off of that, directly caused by a family member, what do you want to do? Like, what is your initial reaction now that this is not the first strike, the second strike, the third strike? This is strike 10 at this point. Like,
my initial reaction is I'm done. But I don't know. I'm fairly a forgiving person, and I know time and distance from certain events will change my perspective and soften my heart. Soften, not soften.
Soften, often, soften.
But I know it will, and I know that it's happened in the past, even with this person. So I feel like that could potentially happen again. And that's why I guess I'm trying to decide now, or at least in the near future, of what the future looks like for me with this person and make that decision so then I can decide what actions I take in the future instead of putting myself back in a position to get hurt again or get angry again or get whatever that is. And this person not change or grow or evolve in any way because they're not taking the lessons. And I spoke with our close, one of my other close friends about it too. And they said that this person would have to experience like a real reaction to this. Like they would have to feel the effects of
their actions.
Yeah. And that hasn't happened thus far. But for change to occur, they would truly have to feel like this is real. Like this is, I'm not playing around and like I'm not going to do this anymore. But I don't know how you do that if they're not talking to you anyway, so then they don't know.
I know. And it's interesting because I think about toxic relationships more on the like romantic front. And I think about like at some point, usually our body kicks in and is like, we need to protect you. Like, get the fuck out of there, you know? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes our mind is so indoctrinated to be like, no, but they do love me even when they do these horrible things to me. So then you keep coming back. But sometimes there's a point where you have a breaking point and you go, oh, for like literally my own well-being to like continue surviving, I need to not be in the presence of this person. And I think having that sensation with this family member for you, like, it's not physically abusive, you know, and not to laugh, but it's not one of those things that you feel in danger necessarily. But I think your body and your mind is telling you, like, I don't want to be treated like this anymore. I have so many safe relationships in your life now, you know, like you're dynamic with Neil, you're dynamic with all your friends, other family members. That you really do feel cared for and taken care of.
One of the like Neil did such a great job about handling that emotion too, and that was one of the things he wanted to remind me of when I was in that emotion. And I'll tell anybody else that's listening to this that maybe is going through the same thing and feeling pain from a person, that you are surrounded by other people that love you and care about you and want to be good to you and want to like do right to you in your life. That I know it's painful when that one person you want that good relationship with isn't doing that. But you have to then turn your point of view to the people that are. The positives in your life and multiplying those and nurturing those and letting the other ones wilt away. If you may.
Yeah, I would say like even let it inspire you in the way of it is possible. You know, like I don't know if Ruth 3 years ago would have thought you would have had as much of a fruitful, beautiful relationship with Neil as you do now, you know? And it's funny to think about. And in hindsight, it's so much easier to be like, hee, that was so funny. Like, I didn't think I was going to fall in love. And now I am. Ha, ha, ha. You know, we've all been there. But
us all.
Madison Blismo, are you in the chat? Yeah, I am. And
I would also encourage people to go back at past episodes and the times that I promised her
that I would fall in love with a wonderful man, and I have. So that's wonderful.
Yes. Side note for the episode.
Just a little sidebar. I mean, and again, it's not like I felt like, oh, I'm doomed. I'm never going to find love again. But I think I just didn't realize just how good it could get, you know? And I feel that way with you, too. I know that you've obviously experienced that tenfold with Neil. And as much as you don't want to cut off this relationship with this family member, you know, like you have adopted family members like this, right? That are in your life that I feel like fill that void.
Absolutely.
For you in that way, you know, like without getting too into the weeds. Like I just don't want to reveal too much of your personal business. But I think you have people that step into that role a lot.
Absolutely.
That you've known for years.
Yeah,
years.
absolutely.
So in that way, you're not losing. Yes, you're losing what could have been, but as far as what they were bringing to the table in that relationship dynamic with you, it's not worth the price of admission in your for your own well-being. You will only continue to surround yourself with people that deserve to be there. The more you realize that you can cut off people and make these boundaries, you will end up gravitating towards the people that deserve and prove that they deserve to be in your life.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not easy, though.
It is not easy. That is for sure. But yeah, I guess to wrap us up here and just kind of give support to anybody else that's out there that's going through this too. It's not easy, like Madison said, and we don't expect you to not feel the pain as you're going through this, but know that you're loved and supported, and to look for those positive relationships that can replace what might feel like a lost relationship at this time, and put yourself first and really protect your well-being mentally. Like, so many times we do talk about toxicity in the extreme forms of like physical abuse or romantic relationships, but this can also exist in your family, and it's okay to step out of it and say, you no longer have a space in my life.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, like when I've talked to you about this and said, like, where are you going to go from here? And just as your friend, just as a sheer curiosity for your own well-being. And you've looked me dead in my face and said, it would take them really apologizing. And if they really owned up to the things that they've done, I would forgive them. Yeah. And I feel like we can move past that. And that's already such a beautiful energy that you brought. And not everyone has to have that. It doesn't have to have the caveat of like, but if they did apologize, I'd come back, or I would mend the broken relationship. Yeah. But I think that should at least give you, Ruth Devereaux, peace, at night, where you're going, I'm not opposed to making this relationship work, but it would have to take work on both ends, and I'm not going to just show up to this by myself and carry this relationship up the mountain, by myself.
Absolutely.
So you can at least rest easy, I think, or hopefully rest a little easier, knowing that like you've tried, and if you decide that this is it, that was one of the last straws that you will ever experience, and you're done. We're done. Yeah. And if they end up coming back and they're able to prove to you that that relationship meant as much to them as to you, and they want to mend it, then you're open to it. Yeah. And that's what I would recommend for people that are listening to,
I agree. I would add to what you just said and say it would be an apology plus proof of change.
Yeah, action.
Yeah.
I think, and that's so fair.
Yeah. But them apologizing would be proof of change to me.
Right? That would be huge change from what you're describing of them. So, I mean, if they came back and they did even apologize, that would mean the world to you. So, and maybe that's not an apology, right? Maybe it's like they owed you money, or they, like insert here, like an experience that like they never told you they were proud of you, and that's like all you've wanted, or something like that. I know there's many relationship dynamics like that out there, specifically familial. Yeah. And if that is your, point of entry, or your required change, that's so fair. And I think obviously if you can talk to a health professional about this, where, someone, maybe a therapist, a psychologist, that you can be like, hey, this is how I want to navigate the boundaries of my relationship dynamic in A, B, and C. Wonderful. If you are unable to do that and just able to confide in your community that you trust deeply, that's also a huge plus. And being able to create boundaries for yourself and make sure that other people, support you in that mission, then fantastic. And I think go forward with whatever feels best for you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thank you, everyone,
Thank you so much
listening. Hopefully people aren't going through this, but I think it's just so natural. I know other people are going through this, and that's why, like, once you brought this up, I was like, absolutely. I think this is such a topical and palpable experience that most people go through at some point in their life.
I think so too. And I hope you guys don't feel alone if you are going through it. Please know we're here to support and know that you're loved by us.
You are. You're the Femme Till All family.
Hey.
The family.
Hey.
Thank you all. Thanks
Thank you
for
so much.
taking us back after 2 weeks of absence. We genuinely love you all. For everyone that listens weekly, I got a couple of shout outs this week from people being like, I miss you. Where are you guys?
Aww.
You know, and so that's so sweet. We appreciate you so much.
Yes.
We will be back. And
Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like.
Woohoo. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.